Welcome everyone to this week's IPLD sync meeting. It's November the 16th, 2020. And as every week, we go over the stuff that we've worked on the past week and then discuss open agenda items. I need to open the hackpad. So I start with myself. So I've been working still lots of stuff on the Rust side of things. And what I currently, which is also the basic plan for this quarter, is to concentrate on getting people that use upstream Rust stuff actually using it. And there was major changes on the multi-format stuff. And now I'm helping those people to upgrade. And also, of course, ideally they upgrade themselves, but as it's really kind of like a huge breaking change, I help them because I also want to see if still things can get smoother. So for example, for libp2p, it was like a too bad breaking change. And then they helped me to basically figure out, oh, how can I make it smoother for them and release the new version? So I really want to take the chance to get the upgrade path smoother and things just smoother for everyone. So I help them. And so almost there is libp2p, and also Forest, the Rust FileCon implementation, is already upgraded to the latest multi-hash and now is upgrading to the latest CAD version. And they even see performance improvements, which is great. Just due to the upgrade. And so the next stuff is obviously Rust IPLD itself, and then also the IPFS implementation, IPFS embedded, and Rust IPFS would be the next candidates I will look into. And then it's not tightly related to IPLD, but still it's I'm working for the FileCon stuff on getting code coverage for Rust projects. And code coverage for Rust stuff is a sad story currently. But last week, there was a new PR merged into Rust, which improves the coverage tooling, and I will look into that as well. And so it's also, of course, then I currently do it for FileCon, but it's obviously also beneficial for any Rust project we have. So let's see how this goes. And this week I also prepare a talk. So it's exciting that this week we have 2 IPFS meetups. On Thursday is the Munich IPFS meetup, the virtual one, and I will give a talk about IPLD. And it will be kind of like a broad overview of everything. So it really goes from multi-formats to schemas. But I already promised that I also get into schema. So I might ping some of you folks to get more advanced stuff, because it's really meant for people that basically know nothing, but also people that already have used IPLD to get excited about the new stuff we're building. So perhaps even into the GraphQL stuff, which is kind of cool. It's also related to schemas and seeing basically where all this could go might be interesting for them. So this is what I also work on this week. I think that's pretty much it. Next on my list is Danielle.
Cool. So I finally merged the first version of Go multi-codec with the table of constants that we spoke about a bunch of weeks ago. It's taken a while, but it was a repo that had some users and contributors before, and I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going too fast in case anybody else had any thoughts. There's a second pull request now to essentially polish the API a little bit. The person that wrote the code, I already reviewed that code a bunch of times before it got merged, but there were a few remaining things, such as the names of the constants were still not very nice, so I simplified that a little bit. And once that's reviewed and merged, I'll tag the first release, and then we can actually start using it in the rest of the Go repos. I also continue with the hemmed. So now it follows links, and it also knows how to create links when you create maps that are too big for a single node and stuff like that. I'm now working on node copying. So right now, when I modify a node, I just modify it in place, which is fine for the tests, but not for much else. So I'm working on that. And the only blocker I've got there, I shot Eric a question a little bit ago. It's not clear to me how the API should look for this stuff, because if I modify a node that points to another node, I can just modify this link, and that's fine. But the root node, I can't just modify it in place. If I make a copy, I need to give this copy back to the user somehow. So it's not clear to me how the Go API for that should look like. I've been also helping Eric review and merge some changes to IPLD Prime because he's been posting a bunch of pull requests to the repo over the past few weeks. And it's quite a lot of code. So we're figuring out how to get that reviewed properly. And lastly, I'm giving a talk at a Go meetup tomorrow, at the Belfast one. It's going to be about the Go's build cache. So it's not going to be IPLD related, but if anybody's interested, I think it is somewhat relevant, especially for some of the more complex repos like IPLD Prime, where the tests do a lot of funky stuff. And then maybe the cache doesn't work very well with that kind of thing. So it might be interesting. And that's it.
Thanks. Next one is Rod.
So I've had one of those weeks where an accounting for it doesn't feel like I'm capturing all the stuff I did. But I think it's just because this Filecoin IPLD data structure stuff actually was a lot of work. I went back through and combed through all the code and pulled out types and documentation as well. So there's a lot of inline documentation and a lot of structure in the linked pages that I've put in the notes. So there's the main chain, and then there's the messages, which also has returns, and they're all versioned as well. So it's been quite educational going through it as well. So there's additional stuff in there, like the actor types are identified with a code, and I've generated all of the different codes in the documentation. So you could actually, if you were to build this, you could hardwire in the byte strings to check for the codes. And there's a bunch of places where there's just additional documentation put in describing what things are. So I think it's a good resource. It's a good start anyway for getting this documented. And the next step is probably to restructure the ADL stuff to get that out of the way, because it is mixed up in between, but it does need a nice way to do that so as to not completely hide it. And there's a couple of minor things, but what else did I say? Oh yeah, the syntax highlighter in VS Code for IPLD schemas, which is quite nice to use when you're doing pages of schemas. So happy about that. Now the only place that there's two places that need syntax highlighting. One is Vim, and the other one is on GitHub, which is not going to get there. So that's really all for me.
Thanks. And next one is Will.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, yeah. So continued on GraphQL CodeGen off of an IPLD schema. That's now in a place people can play with it, which is cool. Ongoing work to make it faster and figure out all of the various there's a bunch of design stuff still. So what methods do you want when you've got a map? Because a map is not a thing that GraphQL has for whatever reason. It just has structs, but you can define methods on it. So I left a few notes that are probably mostly to Eric on various design things and how they mesh between GraphQL and the IPLD CodeGen type schema. And so in particular, it's very frequent that you want to do paging where you've got different requests coming in and those want different set parts of a list or a map. And right now, the only thing that we expose on IPLD.node is an iterator. And that means we have to either statefully keep that iterator between different requests somehow to know where it is, or we have to start again with a new iterator or somehow keep our own sense of how to get, the second 10 items in a map or a list. And especially in a list, I mean, like I can get by index and hope that works. But we should think a little bit about if there's a way to have cursors or some of these other standard things for making selections that is worth, making people's lives in that sense easier. I also took the HAMPed as it exists in Filecoin project /Go HAMP IPLD or something. It has IPLD in the name still, and added the IPLD node methods to it, and was successfully able to plug that in as an IPLD type, which means that it can path through it without loading the whole ADL, which is quite good from a performance improvement. But we should think about what that actually means in practice and why we would probably discourage people from doing that. Fixed or added a little bit more validation, and I'm starting to understand the intricacies of the Go code generation a little bit more. And we'll try and continue putting some code in there. Yeah.
Thanks. Next is Peter.
Yeah, right. So the IPLD related stuff from last week is I finally figured out how to capture everything I need from Lotus, including all state that we care about. Figured out how to correctly segregate it into slabs, because like just putting it into S3 or just putting it into a database is not sufficient for what we need to be able to do with it. Now I actually have a way to capture this particular block has been seen for the first time at such and such epoch. And more interestingly, for the stuff Rod will be doing, I also can capture and will record for the main chain. This particular block has been accessed in this day. I will not be able to, I mean, I could build you an entire DAG in the database, but then it will also be 1 terabyte, and we don't want to do that. But we can at least have with very high degree of granularity to say like this particular block has been accessed in this, and this day, which is probably sufficient to kind of get a rough idea where to look, and then from there on you can just drill further down and stuff like that. Just got this to work on NERPA yesterday, and hopefully we'll be able to start the main ingestion today. There is this a little bit difficulties. I need to go through the entire chain once to actually record all these interactions. But yeah, it hopefully will finish this week. So you will have, as a result, a way to see not only what is there, but when it has been accessed, and of course we will have access to the entire chain in S3 going forward. I am actually in the process right now of uploading a little bit older, like 2-3 days ago, set of blocks. I just want to see how it will go and what adjustments I need to make to S3 to get to ingest faster. But yeah, one question for later is if anyone had a chance to walk through the small set that I put together, just to make sure that I didn't actually miss things. But yeah, that's more or less my update.
Thanks. Next is Chris.
Hey guys, so not a lot to report, but I did meet with Hannah last week, talking about some of the issues around validating the graph sync requests, and got some inspiration for a better approach. It's actually kind of more similar to how she did it in Go, but from like, I guess, a high level design point of view. So started implementing it this morning and can keep on working on that as I go. So that's my update.
Thanks. Eric, do you have any update?
Oh, sorry, I'm still typing in another buffer and haven't copy pasted it in yet. Yeah, so in the last week, we've done some chatting about HAMPs. Those are coming along mostly through other people's work. Very exciting. We've been having specs meetings on Thursdays, and last week we managed to do that again. We should probably say, for anyone out there on the internet who's listening to this, these aren't super secret. They're just a different meeting than this one. If anybody wants to come fight about specification and documentation issues with us, let us know either by like showing up in this meeting and talking about it, or like send us messages in IRC or something. I think we want to like keep an intense kind of working group vibe to it, but it's also not at all a secret. So anyway, so that's happening on Thursdays. Last week, the main one that I was interested in is we tried to hash out what's going to happen with the any specification in the schema layer again. And we've recruited a bunch more information about that and a couple of other topics as well. I still owe everybody a PR with those notes into the team management meeting, where again, anybody else on the internet, you can go find the textual notes of this. We are not recording those meetings, personally, because I frankly want to like speak, well, frankly in them. But we are producing textual notes from them, and like that's the artifact of record. So, and hopefully that's a productive thing. In code news, so I've torn off a little bit of work in trying to revamp some of the codecs in Go IPLD Prime. And this is something that I'm probably going to carry the baton a little way and then try to find a safe, quiet place to put it down again, because it's not the hugest priority in the world right now. But the goal of doing this is mostly to do something about the linking API in the Go IPLD Prime repos, which has been something we've known we want to improve for a long time. So this is trying to step in that direction, get some APIs that are normalized so that they're more pluggable and just normalized. Try to figure out where codec configurability should fit when we tolerate it, which of course is not always. Multi-codecs do not necessarily like supporting configurability, but sometimes it's awfully nice if we can have one tiny little switch that you can use if you really know what you're doing to get like white space tolerance, right? So currently those things are a crazy pain in the butt to configure in the Go IPLD Prime code base. It requires reaching across several packages. It's just ugly. Trying to fix that. Trying to get more internally reusable code by placing the tokenization boundaries better, and hoping to get, as a target of opportunity anyway, performance improvements out of the end. So there's 2 PRs out of this already. 101 was, I think, up last week already, and 112 is now demonstrating some more of what I hope a new codec will actually look like with this. I think some of the code is turning out simpler. Benchmarks are still big to do, so we'll see about that performance improvement. But things seem to be sort of moving along on there. The 112 PR is up and available if anybody wants to review it, but it is also a little preliminary. For example, the missing benchmarks. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. A lot more stuff is probably needed there before that's anywhere near landing. Some other minor PRs closed and tiny features added, like convenience function to select links out of a node tree. Small things. And as Volker already mentioned, there's going to be a short talk about IPLD that I'm going to do tomorrow in another venue, about what's new and where we're going. It's going to be really brief, probably not actually interesting to anybody who's following all of these sessions in detail, but hopefully be a good high-level review. So I'll copy the sign-up link into our text notes for this meeting too, in case anybody wants that. And that is it for me. I need to go prepare for that, in fact.
Thanks. Does anyone have anything else? I don't see any agenda items. No. Then I think it was a quick meeting, which is good, because like originally we said that when we expanded it from half an hour to an hour, that we tried to squeeze it, still try to keep it to half an hour, and now we're even better. So that's good. Yeah. So thanks everyone, and see you all next week. Goodbye.